One of the biggest shifts in how you actually might be perceiving what's happening around you, reality itself. What if everything around you right now is just old information? And the idea that this is the real thing, your circumstances are the real thing and you are here to respond to them. It makes sense because it feels true, because you can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it. It's right here in front of you. How could it not be the real thing? But I invite you to entertain the possibility that everything around you right now is just old information. That your reality right now is just catching up to something that was already decided days, months, or maybe even years ago. Decided through your thoughts, your feelings, your words, your beliefs, the things you kept reinforcing consciously or not, until they eventually became solid enough to call it a circumstance. And if you don't see this, eventually you're gonna end up locked in a perpetual state of living life on repeat. Same script, different day, same people, different avatar, same feelings, different situations, same thoughts, just a different morning. How do you start? Well, first you have to get in touch with the idea that everything you're living right now, it actually already happened. It happened as a thought, as a feeling you kept returning to, as an assumption about yourself or the world that you never really questioned. And now life is just catching up. And this is the main version. You see, our world is slow. The material world moves slow. It's dense, it takes time, it needs patience. But the world of ideas, the inner world, your mind's eye, your feelings, desires, the subtle layer you visit when you close your eyes, when you stare at the horizon, before you fall asleep, when you wake up, when you're doing something you love, that world moves almost instantly. That world knows no time. And what's the one thing people are struggling with more than almost anything right now in the world? Patience. Because everything is moving fast. Because you don't want to be left behind. Because the concept of time is literally changing year after year. We confuse fast with instantaneous. We do not understand the gap. We don't want to understand the gap. We do not understand the inversion. And not understanding the inversion, it generates anxiety, stress, fear of missing out, sensory overload, unfulfillment, a life without contentment, a life that has no meaning, a life that is always incomplete, a life on repeat, a life that is never intentional. Is that what you want? I don't believe so. And then you try to manifest, nothing happens. So you don't believe it. You try harder, more resistance. You try to push through, more resistance. You look around and you want to change your life, but you cannot. And you don't fully understand why or how. You compare yourself to others and you also don't understand how they do what they do. And that's what not understanding this gap, the timing, does to a person. That's what not understanding this inversion can do to you. What do most people do when they want to change their lives? They say, well, when my life improves, I will feel better. When I get the result, the confirmation, the evidence, then I will believe it's possible. They want to see it before they believe it. And that's one of the biggest cliches in human history, probably, to see it before, to believe it before you see it. And that's hard, but that sequence is inverted. You have to believe it before you see it. You cannot see it before you believe it. It sounds like a cliche, but it's also true. It doesn't mean it's not true. The more I go deeper into this, the more I can see it playing out in my own life and the people around me and everywhere. There's testimonials everywhere explaining this. You are waiting for the environment to change before you allow yourself to change inside. And the environment, on the other hand, is waiting for the same thing from you. So nothing moves. We're both waiting for the other to take action. But then, who do you think is gonna win this battle? You? One human being? Or the entire universe and its infinite intelligence? The mirror does not change until you do. And the universe, if you want to call it that, is so benevolent and so good that it can only say yes. It says yes to whatever signal you're putting out. It reflects back. It repeats it. It amplifies it. That's just how it works. This actually takes time to understand this. But once you do, things begin to make a different kind of sense. Life begins to make a different kind of sense. I know that this is not a comfortable idea because it means that life you have right now is, at least in some part, a reflection of an inner state you've been living in. This might create guilt, but this is not the intention. The intention is not to create guilt, not to assign any blame, but because if your current reality is the result of a previous inner state, then your future reality is the result of the inner state you choose right now. This is one of the most quietly empowering things a person can realize in their entire life, I believe. And it's a gradual realization. So you first see one thing, and then you see the other thing, and then you begin to form a bigger puzzle. So how does this internal shift actually look like in real life? How to bridge the realm of ideas, the philosophy, the assumptions we are making here into your own life. It looks different to every person, but it doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't look like forcing yourself to feel something you don't feel or pretending your circumstances are different than they are. Not yet, at least. This internal shift looks more like this. You notice the emotional pattern you keep returning to, but you do not judge them. You just observe the emotional patterns. You just see them. So ask yourself, what do you actually feel when you wake up? Before anything has happened, what do you feel when you sit with the parts of your life you most want to change? Is there a genuine openness there, even a small amount? Or is there a quiet, familiar weight, that low-level sense that things probably won't change? And if you cannot see the future a little bit different, that means it won't likely be. This is how, in a way, you can predict your own future. Whatever the default emotional state is, that's the signal your life is actually running on. It's not your goals, it's not your intentions, not what you say you want when someone asks. It's your default state, the combination of your thoughts, beliefs, and emotions, your feelings. And this shift begins with honest awareness, with you just being willing to ask, what patterns am I running? And are they actually the ones I want to be running? And this requires you to be the actor in the inaction. For the external world, you may look the same, but internally, you are intense, active, aware, detached, practicing. You are probably working as hard as you've ever worked in your life, just invisibly. No one is seeing that. People will only notice after things are done. And why not everyone comes to this realization? I do not think it's because some people are more capable than others, not at all. I do think that is because the pull to look inward has to exist first. You have to genuinely want to understand why your life looks the way it does. Try to understand. Most people want a different life without wanting to examine the one they are currently creating, which is fine. There's no blame here. This is human. But it means that the pattern will continue. You have to be okay with one or the other option. You need the curiosity. You need the spark, that willingness to connect the dots between what's happening outside and what's being running inside. Because without it, the cause stays invisible. And if the cause stays invisible, it stays unchanged. I think that growth does not start with discipline necessarily. I don't think it starts with a better routine or a cleaner goal list. This comes after. Growth starts with one honest question. What in me created this? And what do I want to create next? Explore, be curious, but be willing to face it. Not from a place of guilt, from a place of blame, but from a place of wanting to explore your entire potential. So the present moment is actually two things at once, okay? Practice being comfortable with paradoxes, with holding contradictory ideas in your mind at the same time. Make peace with the fact that maybe, and just maybe, the present moment can be two things at once. First, the present is the mirror of what you were. The visible results of thoughts, feelings, and patterns that have been running quietly, consistently for longer than you probably realized. And the second truth or assumption, the present is also the seed of what you will become, because what you are reinforcing right now internally is already shaping what arrives next to you. And then things begin to make more sense when you hold both of these thoughts at the same time. Be comfortable with that. You cannot go back and tend to what you already planted, but right now, today, you can begin to choose differently. You must begin to choose differently, especially if you're not satisfied with where you are right now. And these choices cannot come through force. They cannot come through performance either. How do they come? Through awareness, through honest pattern recognition, through being willing to feel something different before you have any evidence that it's working. The inversion, the gap, the timing will be there. Things will still take time, at least in this 3D environment we live in. They take time, and we have to understand that. However, the direction you're going can change today. And if you sustain that direction long enough, the world you're looking at right now will soon be old news. The world you are creating is already in motion. Focus on the inside, and the outside will follow. What do I do then? Well, first, begin to audit your defaults, not your goals. Your goals tell you what you want. Your default emotional state, the state you return to when nothing is demanding your attention, when you're by yourself, this state will tell you what you're actually building toward. Second, the delay is normal. The delay does not mean you're failing. The delay is data. When things are not changing fast enough, the instinct is to abandon the internal work and go back to forcing external outcomes to push through. But the delay is just a gap between planting and harvesting. Recognizing that this is normal, that this is supposed to take time, changes how you move through life. Third, awareness comes before action. Most self-development advice starts with doing something different. Doing. I do not fully resonate with that. The reason is because I believe that we must start with seeing something more clearly. Action from awareness lands in a completely different place from action from anxiety. When you take an action from awareness, your outcome is likely much more aligned with who you are, with how things should be in your life. If you trace back all the actions you took from a place of anxiety, you're gonna notice that you faced probably way more resistance and life got way harder. So the idea is to understand the inversion, to apply it in our lives, and to have easier lives as a consequence of that. A life with more understanding, a life that sees the fabric of the universe and how things operate, and be more in peace with the mysteries of how everything works.